One of my big problems in reading tarot cards is my complete inability to remember the meanings of the individual cards. Recently I did a talk at Brighton University, and as part of the talk I was talking about geometry, sacred geometry, and I illustrated the talk on PowerPoint with some of the major arcana. I had the High Priestess on there, and the High Priestess came up, and it was like, this is the High Priestess. It's change fluctuation. And so I talked a bit about what was on the card and things. So there's another card, the Queen of Cups. And it's like, Queen of Cups, it's sort of a blonde woman, being bluish, not much to say really. And it kind of went on like this, these individual cards and, you know, things in the cards I was talking about. But actually, that was really hopeless. It looks like a complete amateur reading the cards. The way I do read the cards is in groups of 3. And I use the opening of the key spreads where you cut the cards into 4 piles. And then you turn the piles over and fan the cards out. And I did a reading recently for a lady. She's about 40 years old. And on the cups pile, she had like 5 of cups, something like this. When I looked at her hands, it was clear that she's going through this big spiritual development kind of thing, but she's very reluctant to embrace all these sort of things. And then I turned over to the future pile, and the top card was something like the 5 of Swords, something like this. It was a bit of a downer, you know. It wasn't exactly like, oh wow, great, fantastic, let's do stuff. And there's other stuff kind of like the 5 of Cups, which is, you know. And all the other cards were in that future pile, were really good. So the top card was like, well, I'm bothering. And all the rest of them were really brilliant. And it was like very much this idea of they had the Temperance of the Art card, and the Sun, Success, the Fortune card, all these cards that you could see that she has kind of a brilliant future coming up for herself. But it just wasn't kind of clicking. And, you know, it's like a level of fear or something. And she pointed to, she just sort of zeroed in on a few cards in the spread. I've seen these cards in the spread, but because there's, you know, it's like 20 cards that are fanned out at the bottom, and there are 3 of them that weren't so good. I kind of ignored them because in the context of the reading, they didn't seem very much. Now, you know, as a tarot reader, I don't think you're going to have a particular problem in interpreting these cards. But let's just see. So the first one is the 10 of Swords. Okay. Then in the centre we have the Emperor. And then you might be thinking now, oh my God, you know, this doesn't look good at all. The Tower. Right. So, here we are. In this really sort of pretty good sequence of about 20 cards. We have 3 cards. The Emperor obviously represents a father or father figure or someone like this. The 10 of Swords, there's a breakup, and the Tower is like something really disastrous is happening. A pretty easy interpretation of those 3 cards is the death of a father, problems in the business or something, or a boss. You know, it's kind of pretty disastrous. It's hard to make anything kind of positive. Yeah, I didn't feel when I saw these cards that there was a lot wrong. So she asked me about them. I said, well, you know, it's kind of, you know, it's usually about some problems with an older man or father figure, because her husband was with her boyfriend, probably boyfriend actually, and he definitely, I said, well, it's definitely not him. She kind of laughed. And it's just, eventually, and she said, well, you know, could it be to do with my father? And I said, well, yes, you know, it definitely could be. Because I didn't have that sort of feeling of like terrible things. And she said, well, my father died last year. And what these cards were, and something, you know, with her father, and it's like that she wanted to go on this spiritual journey. And she probably felt that her father wouldn't approve. So, and these are the future cards. Now, the clue is kind of in the Tower card, there we are, which is often represents things from the past. So actually what these cards represented for her was the loss of her father and the feeling that she couldn't move on her spiritual journey because he wouldn't approve. So this is a good example of how to sort of, even when you see these cards like this, which is pretty disastrous, actually, it was actually to do with something that already happened to someone, even though they're in the future position, and that she hadn't reconciled them within herself. So, to be honest with you, I wasn't actually even going to bother looking at these cards because they didn't seem that important to me. They were to her because of the fact she hadn't moved on. And it's really funny because as soon as we sort of discussed this and talked about the idea of where her father is, and all of us, if you lose someone like our parents or grandparents or someone like this, someone close to us in the family, the best way is always to perceive them in your heart, because if you do that, then they're closer to you in real life, except of course like grandparents, parents, they can't give you money because they're not here anymore. But it's just this closest connection. And you just suddenly sort of a body language sort of change, which was immediately sort of like, oh wow, that's great, I can deal with these sort of things. And she suddenly could sort of see her spiritual destiny, her path, all these things that were there when I first looked at her hands and looked at her cards, suddenly all came into focus. So, are these cards as bad as you think? In one sense, yes, but in another sense, they're not at all.